Live from WRAL News headquarters in Raleigh, your number one source for local news. WRAL News, coverage you can count on.
Expect near record heat this weekend with the heat index well into the triple digits. I'll show you when it starts to get hot and how long it will last.
A Fayetteville couple prepares to face a judge for reportedly breaking into several Cary businesses. And get this, they are also restaurant owners themselves.
Also, good news for some student loan borrowers who did not qualify for loan forgiveness, why some might still see their payments cut by nearly half starting next month.
We have a look right now. Drone video of flooding in Surfside Beach, Texas, caused by the remnants of what was Tropical Storm Alberto. The National Hurricane Center said the Texas coast could see as much as 5 inches in some areas. Good afternoon to you. I'm Jeff Hogan.
And I'm Michelle McConaughey in for Renee Chu. Thanks for joining us. The big story here is the heat. Highs will climb nearly 10 degrees above normal this weekend. Elizabeth Gardner is in the WRAL Severe Weather Center with a look at when our heat index, Elizabeth, is exceeding 100 degrees.
This is likely to start Saturday and then continue for the rest of the weekend and on into the middle of next week. So the record high for the weekend, both days, Saturday and Sunday, is 100. Looking at 97 on Saturday and 98 on Sunday. Now, these 2 days may feel slightly different. Saturday, the dew point will be lower, or there'll be less moisture in the atmosphere, less humidity Saturday than there'll be on Sunday. So Sunday, because even though the temperatures will be similar, Sunday may be the more dangerous day. We look at our heat risk map, and you can see some areas of red around Raleigh and Fayetteville. That's where the heat index would be near 105, or at least the conditions would feel like that. But orange elsewhere. But now Sunday, notice how it goes up to major for almost the entire viewing area. That heat index at 105, or maybe even a little bit hotter. We take a look, and looking at 93 is what it feels like for this afternoon, and then 94 on Friday. Then we jump up to 103 Saturday, but then, well into the 100s. Sunday maybe as high as 110 and 108 on Monday, and it looks like that's going to continue for much of the week, with only a chance for some showers and thunderstorms early next week, which we'll take a look at coming up in just a few minutes. We talked about the tropics, so we had Alberto move on shore, and it's just becoming remnants at this point, but there's a second system that may form in the same place, bringing more rain to parts of Mexico and Texas by the weekend. We'll talk about what the impact of that could be, and another system off the East Coast coming up in just a bit.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. And with this excessive heat here, many organizations are offering advice about staying safe and healthy. That includes the Red Cross. There are 3 things you need to keep in mind. 1, slow down. Be sure to limit outdoor activities or exercise in the afternoon, and make sure to never leave kids or pets alone in a hot car. Number 2, stay hydrated and be careful if you're drinking beverages that contain caffeine or alcohol. And 3, spend time inside. If you don't have air conditioning, maybe spend time at a public library, a shopping mall, or a cooling center.
So it is so important that we all have a plan, that we're prepared during this heat wave, and that we're also ready and willing to check on our vulnerable neighbors, our vulnerable loved ones, because at the end of the day, we are all in this together.
And remember, if it's too hot for you to be outside, it's also too hot for your pets to be outside.
Michelle, I do want to bring our viewers into the WRAL Live Center to kind of jump off of what Elizabeth was saying before, that other system that's making its way towards Mexico. That's the last thing they need right now, as the Associated Press is reporting at least 3 people were confirmed after Tropical Storm Alberto hit Mexico. I want to show you some video there, those raging floodwaters that are right there. There's so much heavy rain, as well as that significant ocean surge hit that area, even stretching as far north as Louisiana. We're talking 700 miles from the storm's center. We're certainly going to keep looking at to see more effects of this storm damage, not just there in Mexico, but Texas as well. And we'll be looking to see what exactly happens, as Elizabeth was pointing out, with that second system that seems to be developing.
New today, a Fayetteville couple is due in a Wake County courtroom. The pair faces close to 50 charges for break-ins across several cities dating back a year. Chelsea Donovan is outside court with what we know about those charges. Chelsea?
Yeah, Jeff, as you mentioned, in just about 90 minutes, that Fayetteville couple, who subsequently, as you mentioned, also are business owners, are due behind me in a Wake County court around 1:30. Both remain in jail after Cary police arrested them yesterday. They said they broke into at least 6 restaurants across several jurisdictions, including Cary, Morrisville, Apex, and Wake Forest, dating back to late last year. Now, this is Yenaria Locklear and her husband, Robert Harris. The two own a restaurant in Fayetteville called the Vegan Spot, which opened in 2021. Harris faces 40 charges and is in jail under no bond. His wife facing 9 charges. She has a $170,000 bond. Now, police say in Cary alone, the pair was charged with felony breaking and entering, safe cracking, and conspiracy. Harris was already on probation for other felony charges and has violated that probation, according to court records. Now, warrants also show that this couple is also accused of safe cracking and breaking into registers, stealing more than $20,000 in cash from many of these restaurants. Of course, we'll be in that courtroom as this pair faces a judge and bring you updates in our later newscasts. Live in downtown Raleigh, Chelsea Donovan, WRAL News.
A man is being treated for serious injuries after an early morning shooting. It happened just after 1:30 this morning on Idlewood Village Drive. That's near Sanderford Road. That's in southeast Raleigh. The video here is from the WRAL Breaking News Tracker. It shows police investigating at that scene. Police do not have anyone in custody at this time. The investigation is ongoing. And we're also working hard to learn the identity of the person who was killed in an overnight crash in Garner. Highway Patrol says the driver hit a tree on White Oak Road just before midnight. The road was shut down until about 4:45 this morning as troopers investigated.
A traffic alert will affect your drive time tonight. Construction to complete the 540 loop continues with overnight closures. WRAL's Ken Smith is here. What we can expect out of this, Ken?
You know, Jeff, these overnight closures start tonight and run through June 25th. So here's what will happen. The on-ramp from Highway 55 to 540 will close starting tonight at 9 p.m. and will reopen tomorrow morning at 5 a.m., just ahead of the morning commute. Again, these overnight closures will happen at least for the next 5 days. Now, you've got to pay close attention to the detour that's already in place for drivers looking to travel west on 540. It requires a U-turn just south of Old Smithfield Road. Now, this southern portion of 540 will extend the Triangle Expressway, which, by the way, is a toll road, to the Highway 55 bypass to I-40. Again, these overnight closures will begin tonight. The final portion of the 540 loop is expected to be completed in 2028.
4 construction workers are recovering after a fire at Charlotte Douglas International Airport's old FAA control tower. That fire started around 8 o'clock this morning. Emergency crews noticed heavy smoke when they got there. The workers were briefly trapped, but managed to make it out safely. Crews put out the fire within 10 minutes. Where that fire started and how is under investigation.
Supreme Court justices are due to go on summer recess in a matter of days, and they don't return until October. In the meantime, the White House is bracing for a ruling on whether federal law to provide emergency care can override state abortion bans. The administration says federal law requires states to allow an abortion if it's needed to stabilize a patient, even when the mother's condition isn't yet life-threatening. Starting next month, millions of borrowers will see their monthly student loan payments reduced. This applies to people enrolled in President Biden's repayment plan known as Saving on a Valuable Education, or SAVE. Starting in July, monthly payments on loans borrowed for undergraduate schools will be reduced from 10% to 5% of discretionary income. The payment recalculation will happen automatically and does not require any action from borrowers enrolled in SAVE.
Today, State House lawmakers will officially approve their $31 billion budget. Senate leaders, meantime, expect to unveil their own plan. The state Senate has been at odds with the House over how to spend a $1 billion surplus. The Senate agrees with the House on giving more money to child care and private school vouchers, but it wouldn't give bigger raises to state employees, as the House wants to do. For complete coverage of the budget proposals, go to the NC Capitol section of WRAL.com. We've learned more about the arrest of the former HR director of the Department of Revenue in our state. He was arrested last week in Los Angeles, accused of a child sex crime. Harlan Fry did not come to the door when we knocked at his home in a quiet Greensboro golf community. We spoke to a TikToker who calls himself Black Biden, who confronted Fry at a Long Beach Hyatt hotel. He captured an alarming 20-minute conversation where Fry admits to seeking out a 15-year-old boy for sex. Fry said he was in L.A. for a work conference and got on a dating app, as he said he does often. Within a few minutes, police showed up and arrested him.
The Wake County Sheriff is speaking out after a deputy shot someone they say refused to leave an apartment after being evicted. It happened on Water Oak Drive in Raleigh on Tuesday. Sky 5 flew over the Raleigh apartment complex where sheriff's deputies were in a 7-hour standoff. You can see an armored vehicle and several deputies with their guns drawn. Sheriff Willie Rowe did not identify the deputy or the man who was involved.
I'm always confident in the staff of the sheriff's office as far as discharging the duties of this office. That's why training is so important, providing proper tools, resources, the support, the leadership, the management, the trust.
The man who was shot is in the hospital.
Take a look at stocks this noon. You see where the Dow Jones Industrial Average is. The S&P 500 is the one that made big news today. It briefly topped the 5,500 mark for the first time ever. It's at 5,490 right now. The NASDAQ is down 18 points this noon.
Next for us, a closed-door trial began today in Russia. What's at stake for a ballerina accused of treason?
Also, summer camps and summer heat. What camp leaders are doing to keep kids safe and what you could do to help.
Plus, the 10 commandments in the classroom. At 12:30, the state requiring they be visible in public schools, and the critics willing to go to court to fight it.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.
A trial began today in Russia behind closed doors. It's for a U.S.-Russian dual citizen accused of committing treason by fundraising for Ukraine's military. Ksenia Karolina was born in Russia, but built a new life in the U.S. working at a spa. Keir Simmons reports her trial hinges on a donation to a New York nonprofit benefiting Ukraine.
This morning, our first glimpse of American Ksenia Karolina in months. Casually dressed, sitting in the dock, managing something of a smile. Karolina in court for her trial in Ekaterinburg, Russia, only to learn she will wait longer, the case postponed until August. A long way from her life in California, an amateur ballerina who became a US citizen and, friends say, was only in Russia to visit her elderly mother. The 33-year-old charged with treason because, her boyfriend says, she donated just $51.80 to a Ukrainian charity. In a statement overnight, he told NBC News, "She is an innocent young woman with her whole life ahead of her. She is full of compassion and donated a small amount to a US non-profit to help people in need. She is not an activist for any cause." Expressing the hope the court will see that prosecuting her is a mistake and send her home to Los Angeles. She joins a growing list of American citizens imprisoned in Russia, including Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich, whose trial begins next week, facing the same judge as Ksenia Karolina. His newspaper says he is innocent. The US says he is wrongfully detained. President Putin this morning in Vietnam after a visit to Kim Jong-un in North Korea, signing more strategic partnership agreements, has said talks are underway to exchange Gershkovich following the 2022 deal for WNBA star Brittany Griner, who was freed in a prisoner swap after time in a penal colony she says she will never forget.
It's Keir Simmons reporting. If convicted, she faces up to 20 years in prison.
Too much time in the sun can be dangerous for anyone, especially children. Consider the fact that we're seeing temperatures in the 90s with heat indices expected to exceed 100 this week. Camp leaders around Wake County are reminding kids to drink water before they realize they're thirsty. When you're helping your kids pack ahead of the camp, remind them to bring light clothing so they can stay cool. Aaron Miller is the director of programs at New Life Camp, and he says it's his job to make sure the kids stay safe.
Each day of extreme heat is more dangerous than the one before. It kind of builds up. So if we have multiple days of extreme heat, we make sure that our counselors know that this day is more dangerous than yesterday, and so we need to be even more cautious and more alert.
Miller says once the temperature hits 90 degrees, the camp begins its extreme heat procedures.
We hope those kids have access to pools or lakes or indoor activities, right? Elizabeth Gardner over in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. Big story we are looking at nationally and internationally, really, when you look at this Alberto.
Yeah, we saw all that video of the flooding in Texas and, of course, in Mexico as well. So the storm is inland at this point. Its winds are back down to around 35 miles per hour. So it's a remnant at this point, moving west at about 18 miles per hour. But it is still dumping a lot of heavy rain over Mexico, not as much over Texas now as it was. So here's the thing that is not so great to see. Another system is likely to develop in the next few days, potentially over the weekend. Right now it has a 50% chance of developing in the exact same place that Alberto developed, and it's likely to make landfall in the same spot as well. And this is interesting. We've been watching this wave, the models trying to decide whether this is going to develop or not. And the models are not looking at a great chance for this to become a big thing, at least not for North Carolina. But it does now have a 40% chance, as of earlier this morning, of developing sometime in the next week or so. This is a look at the model plots, and certainly in a good agreement that it's likely to make landfall no matter whether it's a tropical disturbance or just a tropical wave here across Florida or southern Georgia. Then it swings northward, but the models really have it fizzling out before it makes it to North Carolina. It doesn't look like we would see any rain out of this. We'll continue to watch. Sometimes before systems have developed, it can be difficult to tell exactly what they'll do. But this version of Futurecast does show about a 70% chance of at least a tropical depression forming. But that doesn't mean it'll be a tropical storm, but potentially a tropical depression. And then we take another look here. These are the model plots for the next system that could affect the Gulf of Mexico as well as Texas and Mexico itself. So here's a look at current conditions. We're looking at Futurecast, though, and you can see that rain is likely to continue maybe for another 12 hours or so over Mexico. Just some light showers there across the coast of Texas. And then we'll see that wave that starts to develop. You can see a little bit of rain that pushes in around Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and maybe right along the coast during the day on Saturday. And then here comes that next system. We start to see some circulation here, kind of lingering right along the coast Saturday and Sunday of Mexico and pushing some rain on up into Texas as well. So we're watching to see what happens there. This is a look at our potential rainfall for the next 7 days. In South Texas, it looks like maybe up to 5 inches, but down in Mexico, it looks like maybe another 10. And of course, if you happen to catch that video at the beginning of the newscast, boy, they're already dealing with a lot of flooding. So this will be just a few days after Alberto. Goldsboro looking pretty with partly cloudy skies. Same thing in Apex and Chapel Hill, really pretty puffy cumulus clouds showing up there, Chapel Hill, courtesy of Top of the Hill Restaurant. It is the first day of summer solstice. Of course, we all know that the Earth is tilted on its axis, and during the summer is tilted toward the sun in the northern hemisphere. And on this date, we end up with the longest day and the shortest night of the year. But from now on, we get to slightly shorter days all the way up through the end of December. Look at this. It may feel like 102 Saturday, 105 Sunday, 104 Monday, 106 on Wednesday, and some of those could end up being days that we have a heat advisory. We're going to talk a little bit about that heat advisory potential coming up. Looking at rain, we definitely need some. A cold front comes sliding our way late Sunday into Monday. It doesn't look like it's going to give us a big break from the heat or a lot of rain potentially, but it'll be our next best chance. And again, coming up, we'll talk more about that heat index and which day we may see a heat advisory.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. And with temperatures in the upper 90s and the early days of hurricane season, now is the time to prepare for extreme weather. Ahead on our News at 4, steps you can take now to be ready for an emergency in the future.
And then the town of Cary bought a former strip club. Yeah, strip club. And on WRAL News at 5, the town explains what they plan to do with it. Still ahead this noon, many female voters are feeling uneasy about the presidential race. That's according to a new study. The top 3 reasons they say they're less motivated to head to the polls.
Plus, this weekend, a rivalry reignites. Basketball rivals Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese go head-to-head. How the game is breaking records before it even starts.
Nearly 60% of Americans feel uncomfortable with the amount of emergency savings they have. More than a quarter of Americans have no emergency savings at all. Nearly 3 in 10 have some, but not enough to cover 3 months' worth of expenses. To create a savings cushion, experts say set up a direct deposit from your paycheck or automatic transfer from your checking into a dedicated savings account. AT&T is raising prices for customers who are on old unlimited data plans that have been retired. Starting in August, their bills will rise by about $20 for plans with multiple lines. Customers with a single line will see charges go up by $10 a month. AT&T says it's offering more high-speed data and hotspots in exchange for the price hike, which would let customers keep their old plans that have been grandfathered in.
This weekend's rematch between basketball rivals Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese is breaking more records before it even begins. Ticket prices for Clark's Indiana Fever and Reese's Chicago Sky are the most expensive for a WNBA game ever. Currently, the cheapest seat just to see the game is around $250, with the most expensive ticket on sale going for more than $9,000. It's the third time this season that the opponents have met in the WNBA. Previous matchups between the former college rivals that have sparked national attention and record TV ratings. Nearly half of large U.S. firms say they plan to use artificial intelligence to do work previously done by human employees. And over 80% of large companies say they've already leaned on software, equipment, or tech, including AI, to conduct employee tasks in the past year. Companies are not just using the technology as a tool to cut costs, but also to make their workers more productive.
Thousands of auto dealerships across the U.S. were hit with computer system outages after a cyber attack. This cyber incident happened at CDK Global, which provides software used at 15,000 dealerships in the U.S. and Canada. CDK software helps dealers manage sales and other services, and the hacking prevented dealerships from making sales in some cases. The company shut down its systems to address the issue, but has been able to get some back up and running. If you haven't checked your AC in a while, good luck. The forecast calls for more severe heat, and many repair services are booked solid.
And public schools are not Sunday schools. That's the word from the ACLU. The group is taking Louisiana to court over a new mandate requiring the 10 Commandments be displayed in all public schools. And as we head to break, here are your winning lottery numbers. Good luck.
Shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
A massive heat wave is gripping the Northeast, impacting more than 60 million people from Michigan to Maine.
There are many states that have set up cooling centers. Wildfires, though, out west have turned deadly. NBC's Aaron McLaughlin reports.
This morning, dangerous weather from extreme heat to fires across the country, with over 80 million under heat alerts.
Please stay in the house. Stay cool as you can.
In the Northeast today, half a dozen cities are forecasted to either meet or exceed record highs. In Bangor, Maine, it's never felt hotter.
It's like being slapped in the face.
Folks are staying safe any way they can, with shopping malls and churches turned cooling centers. In Connecticut, hundreds crowded the beach.
It's crazy. Like, the only spots open are in the ocean.
At yesterday's Phillies game, misters, water stations, and sunblock dispensers to deal with the scorching temps.
Water.
Lots of water.
The Major League team taking every precaution.
We've increased medical staff for games this week, especially those games that are during the day.
Wild weather also bringing dangerous conditions out west. In New Mexico, strong winds and thunderstorms triggering a massive dust storm called a haboob, dropping visibility to less than a quarter of a mile, causing multi-vehicle crashes. And in the same state, two fast-moving wildfires killed at least 2 people, scorching more than 23,000 acres, destroying 1,400 structures, prompting a state of emergency and the evacuation of thousands of residents in Ruidoso, about 150 miles southeast of Albuquerque. Officials say the severe weather could affect firefighting efforts.
We have 2 devastating, enormous fires. And when I say enormous, it means that they're getting more and more complicated to address.
That was Aaron McLaughlin reporting. The heat wave we're experiencing is putting a strain on AC companies, but they tell us they're prepared if you need someone to help cool your home. WRAL's Heidi Kirk tells us how companies are bracing for the hot summer ahead.
It's been a busy morning so far at Michael & Son as they're preparing for the latest heat wave. Now, they tell us that call volume has been up 40% in the last few weeks. Now, we went out with an HVAC technician earlier this week, and they tell us older systems especially begin to struggle in hotter temperatures, leading to problems. Technicians have been making dozens of stops per day in preparations for this heat. And now that it's here, it's only getting busier. They recommend getting your equipment serviced once per year ahead of summer so that during these periods of high heat, your systems are ready to handle it.
Don't expect your thermostat to do what it can't do, especially when it's 100 degrees outside. Keep your filters changed, have routine maintenance done, and that should pretty much set you to pretty much last a very long time with your equipment.
Now, he also tells us that it's kind of like getting your car serviced when it comes to your HVAC unit, and that when you get your oil changed, it's also a good time to check on your AC system to make sure that you're prepared when these periods of high heat hit so that you're not without AC. Heidi Kirk, WRAL News in Raleigh.
A controversial bill that passed overwhelmingly by Louisiana's Republican-controlled legislature earlier this year is now law. It requires every public school classroom in the state to display the Ten Commandments. It's the first state to enact a law like that, and Caroline Shively reports critics vow to take that matter to court.
After a lengthy fight, Louisiana has just become the first state in the nation to require public schools to display the Ten Commandments.
And although this is a religious document, this document is also posted in over 180 places, including the Supreme Court of the United States of America.
Opponents argue the law violates the separation of church and state and the First Amendment. The American Civil Liberties Union is among several organizations that have vowed to fight the new law in court. Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry says he can't wait to be sued, but some members of the state legislature say it's a wasted effort.
The money we're going to spend, the resources we're going to waste defending this lawsuit, we should be spending educating our children.
Now, a number of states are eyeing Louisiana as a potential model for their classrooms. Utah, Oklahoma, and Texas have all proposed similar bills.
That was Caroline Shively reporting. Conservative religious groups want the legal fight to go all the way to the Supreme Court. They hope the conservative majority would rule in their favor, setting a national precedent.
A newly released poll suggests many female voters in the U.S. are uneasy about the presidential race. 1 in 5 said they're less motivated to vote in this election. 70% said they're frustrated with the race, and 6 in 10 said they aren't satisfied with the choices for president. The report was compiled by the nonprofit firm KFF, an independent source for health policy research, polling, and journalism. And it appears the CNN presidential debate will be a two-man show. That's because independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. did not qualify. In order to qualify, Kennedy needed to earn at least 15% support in 4 approved national polls, but he only has 3%. Kennedy also needed to be officially on the ballot in enough states that he could win 270 votes in the Electoral College. But as of Thursday, he had less than a third of that number. The debate takes place a week from today.
Just ahead, indulging in a cocktail during the summertime can be refreshing and fun, but too many can harm your health mentally and physically. We'll share tips on how to reduce your risks.
And at 89, the grandmother of Juneteenth is not slowing down anytime soon. The special meaning behind her 2.5-mile walk in Texas. And our team is working to bring you exclusive stories for coverage you'll only find on WRAL. Visit WRAL.com and search only.
Just look at Beaufort this noon. Let's check out some of those puffy clouds there, but mostly blue skies. Very hot there on the water. Some people like to enjoy the summer weather with an adult beverage, but doctors say it's important to be mindful of how much you're drinking. Increased alcohol consumption is tied to an increased risk of several types of cancer and can lead to other chronic conditions as well. Drinking may make you feel good in the moment, but it can lead to mental health issues like anxiety and depression. Addiction specialists recommend alternating between drinking alcohol and water or use apps to track your drinking. More than 600 million people worldwide are affected by lower back pain. One simple activity, though, could provide relief. Researchers studied 2 groups who recently recovered from an episode of low back pain. They were split into 2 groups, and in one group, participants were given a 6-month walking program. The others were not provided with any intervention. Those who walked regularly were able to avoid a recurrence of that lower back pain for almost twice as long compared to those who did not walk.
The woman known as the grandmother of Juneteenth held her annual 2.5-mile walk. Opal Lee walked the distance with hundreds of people in her native Texas. Opal's Walk for Freedom began in 2016. At 89 years old, Lee set out to walk from her home in Fort Worth, Texas to Washington, D.C. as part of her push to make Juneteenth a holiday. The symbolic 2.5-mile walk represents the 2.5 years the enslaved people in Texas did not know they were free.
You know, people who aren't on the same page you on, change their minds. Not gonna happen in a day, you're gonna have to work at it. But if people have been taught to hate, they can be taught to love.
And last month, President Biden awarded Lee the Presidential Medal of Freedom for her work to get Juneteenth recognized as a federal holiday.
That's walking with a purpose there. Have you ever wondered how elite athletes get in shape for the Olympics? Experts share the science behind how the nation's top athletes eat and train ahead of the Games.
And speaking of Olympic training, we'll have your first look at the new Netflix documentary featuring 7-time Olympic medalist Simone Biles. A look at her journey back to the Games after withdrawing from the Tokyo Olympics. This will be a busy place tomorrow and this weekend. You're looking live at Carolina Beach. You're watching WRAL News, available on Spectrum and the WRAL app on your TV or streaming device. Make sure to hydrate out there. Well, some state parks in our area are closed for the summer because they're having trouble filling positions. Out of the 575 full-time positions within state parks, 140 are vacant. This sign at the lake at Cliffs of the new state parks in Wayne County says it's closed because of staffing shortages. One grandmother left disappointed after she saw the sign, hoping to have a fun summer day with her grandkids.
They're here on vacation, so that was one of our things to do, to just kind of visit the local spots. Throws a damper on everything because me, myself, I didn't know they was having such a shortage that it was closed.
Officials tell us it is one of 2 partial closures in the state due to staffing. And the sign says the lake is closed for the rest of the season. As far as the rest of the park goes, staff hopes they'll have enough staff to open this summer or next year.
You ever wondered how Olympic athletes stay in such great shape? Nutrition and fitness experts are letting us know how many top athletes are eating and training ahead of the global games. Chris DeMayo takes a closer look at some of their secrets.
Excitement continues, growing ahead of next month's Summer Olympics in Paris. But as organizers race to put the finishing touches on event facilities, top athletes from around the world are also busy preparing for the Games.
These are the elite of the elite athletes.
Health experts say competitors at the Olympic level must eat in ways that are drastically different than the average person looking to stay in shape.
They're going to need more protein, they're going to need more fluids, more sodium to replace what they're losing in sweat.
Lauren Link of Purdue University says nutrition can make or break an athlete's chances of going for gold. And when it comes to how much food most Olympians eat in a day, the results could shock you.
6,000, 7,000, 8,000 calories, and maybe even more for some of the training that these athletes are doing.
But it's not just what they put into their bodies that counts.
We're trying to maximize both the physiological and psychological preparation.
Because Olympians are in incredible shape, fitness experts say these athletes must engage in specialized training called peaking to try and be a cut above the rest.
When you're peaking, you're trying to squeeze that last little bit of juice out of the orange, so to speak, to maximize performance. The higher level of athlete, the smaller differences there is between pre-peaking and post. So it may only be a 1% or less difference in performance, but at the highest levels, that could be the difference between winning a gold medal and not even making the final heat.
You have to have it all right on that given day. That was Chris DeMeo reporting. As a reminder, the Olympic swimming trials continue through Sunday, and track and field trials begin tomorrow in Eugene, Oregon. You can catch all the excitement of the Olympics on WRAL. Liz McLaughlin will bring us live coverage from Paris beginning July 26th.
All right, turning to weather now. It is heating up out there, and it's a good day to get out on the lake, I think. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner with a live look over Lake Gaston. I mean, I've seen many boats today.
I'm trying to figure out how to make friends with these folks right here. Does anybody know these people? I would like to meet them. Look at that. I mean, they know what to do. There's another boat. I mean, I think it's a pretty busy day out there on Lake Gaston. And we thank the Point Restaurant for this view here. They're all tied up at the restaurant. They're kind of a neat spot to stop off if you're out enjoying the lake. And it's a great day to enjoy the lake. Temperatures are in the mid 80s right now. We still have a northeast wind at 7 miles per hour. It continues to push in some slightly drier air. So our dew point doesn't feel terrible. The humidity doesn't feel too bad out there. Very similar to what we've seen the last several days. Now, don't get me wrong, it's going to be hot, but if you can find a shady spot, like this boat has a cover that you call a bimini, it gives you some nice shade there. That's going to feel pretty comfortable with a little breeze coming across the water. But we are looking at a high of 91 in Raleigh, 89 in Durham, and 92 degrees in Fayetteville. Take a look at our muggy meter. We're sitting at 63, which feels tolerable. I made it out for a little run at Umstead after work yesterday, and I'll tell you, in the shade, even in the middle of the afternoon, it didn't feel too bad. But here's what's about to happen. Our dew points are going to start to climb. By Saturday, we'll be up to steamy, and by Sunday, Monday, and into much of next week, we'll get into the tropical zone, and that's when it gets dangerous. We just get so much moisture in the atmosphere that when your body tries to cool off, there's no place for your sweat to evaporate to, and that's how we cool our bodies. We have evaporative cooling that happens when we sweat. If there's too much moisture in the atmosphere, you just don't have that same evaporative cooling, and it feels hot and it gets dangerous. So we're back up here in the tropical zone Sunday and Monday, and gradually we're going to sneak up that way over the next few days. Speaking of a few days, boy, the last several days there's been a heat advisory across parts of the Ohio Valley and up into the Northeast. Some pockets of excessive heat warning in a few places, even on up into Maine. And their excessive heat warning in Maine would look different from our excessive heat warning just because they have less air conditioning there. They're just not as used to it. But we're looking at orange for Saturday. That gives us a moderate heat risk. And this heat risk is something that tells you how dangerous it's going to be to your body. So how is your body going to react? Moderate. And then some pockets around Fayetteville and Raleigh where it could be more major. Again, where some people may not have a great way to cool their where they live. And if that's the case, just think about heading out to the library or somewhere where you can stay cool. And then Sunday, it looks worse. So major heat risk for Sunday, where the heat index would be at 105 or hotter. 88 is our normal high. So today's high is not that much above normal, but by Saturday, Sunday, and into early next week, we're looking at about 10 degrees above normal. Saturday's heat index could be around 103, and then possibly maybe up to 110 Sunday or 108 on Monday. So once we get into Sunday early next week, a heat advisory is possible. Those get issued by the National Weather Service, and we'll take a look and let you know if they do issue any advisories for us for this heat for the weekend or early next week. It looks like we could continue all the way through the month of June with above normal temperatures, and that starts to get us into that week of 4th of July. Our best chance for rain is Monday, but you can see here it's only a 50% chance. It would be just a few scattered afternoon storms, but we'll keep watching that closely as it gets closer.
Thanks, Elizabeth. You might not be able to use the Force, but a class in Mexico teaches Star Wars fans how to combat the styles of their favorite characters, how you can hone in on those Jedi moves. That's coming up.
And as we head to break, here's your winning lottery numbers. Good luck.
We wrap things up with a look at a few of the headlines we're following for you today.
New today, a Fayetteville couple is due in a Wake County courtroom. The pair faces close to 50 charges for break-ins across multiple cities dating back a year. Robert Harris and Yanara Locklear were arrested at their home in Fayetteville. Locklear is being held under a $170,000 bond, and Harris is being held under no bond. We'll let you know what happens in court tonight on our evening news.
A man is being treated for serious injuries after an early morning shooting. This happened just after 1:30 this morning on Idlewood Village Drive near Sanderford Road. That's in southeast Raleigh. This is video from the WRAL breaking news tracker showing police investigating that scene. Police do not have anyone in custody at this time. The investigation continues.
A traffic alert that will affect your drive time tonight. Construction to complete the 540 loop continues with overnight closures. The on-ramp from Highway 55 to 540 will close starting at 9 p.m. and will reopen at 5 a.m. ahead of the morning commute. These overnight closures will happen at least for the next 5 days. Japanese company GMO Internet Group is launching a new business that rents out AI robots. Take a look at how this dog-shaped robot is able to get back up off its back by itself. GMO Internet Group plans to rent out bots like this to people who could then put them to work performing specific tasks. Company officials hope that smart AI-based robots will help fill shortages in the workforce.
Durham is celebrating its first dedicated pickleball facility today. The grand opening celebration takes place in about 5 minutes, right at 1 o'clock. It's at the Piney Wood Park location. The new facility has 12 courts. The pickleball courts first opened back in December. With the nice weather out there, you can get out and play. It seems like a good time to celebrate the new courts, some of them shaded there.
Just in time for the Summer Olympics in Paris, Netflix is set to drop a new documentary on Simone Biles' journey to the Summer Olympics.
I wanted to quit like 500,000 times, and I would have if it weren't for my people. We want to make sure.
Biles talks about her journey battling mental blocks during the 2020 Tokyo Games. Moments featuring her husband, NFL safety Jonathan Owens, as well as her former Team USA teammate Allie Reisman and her mother Nellie Biles will also be included. The tagline for Simone Biles' Rising calls the documentary one of the most powerful comebacks in history. The 4-episode series will premiere on Netflix July 17th.
The Jedi Knight Academy is teaching Star Wars fans lightsaber combat and choreography. The class is based in Mexico City. It teaches techniques based on Sith and Jedi teachings. The combination draws knowledge from martial art styles like Aikido and Tai Chi. Lightsaber dueling is gaining popularity. It was even recognized as an official combat sport by the French Fencing Federation.
Our pet of the day is a charming bundle of joy. Wampus is a mixed Great Dane who is full of personality. His confident nature is matched by only his impressive intelligence and eagerness to learn, especially when tasty treats are part of that lesson. Wampus is potty trained, crate trained, and sleeps soundly through the night. He'd probably do best as the only pet in the house without young kids. Contact the number on your screen if you're ready to meet Wampus.
It is summer solstice today on our news at 4, the first day of summer, and it's really heating up. So we'll share how to protect your skin from the harmful effects of the sun.
Lots of sunscreen, lots of water, all things to know before you head outside. NBC News Daily is next on WRAL, your next local news update in 30 minutes.
You can get breaking news updates anytime with our WRAL News app. Find some shade and have a great day.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.